right? Oh,
As I wait for it all to come about.
right.
And this is Karen with newclevelandradio.net. And it is time for What in the World with Paul Seaburn and his sidekick, John DiNallo. And yours truly, the producer of the show, who didn't come to rehearsal today.
Oh, yeah.
We
I'm
noticed.
sorry.
There was an empty spot in your chair. No one brought donuts. That was your job.
I know. Yep.
Zoom donuts for everybody listening out there that we share. Hey, this is before you tune into another podcast wondering what the heck happened to What in the World. We are What in the World. As always, I'm Paul Seaburn, your host, clicking on little buttons here as I speak, watching the things happen on the screen. This is What in the World, everybody's favorite weird news show. Real news, sometimes strange, always funny. That's our motto. That the first voice you heard, our introducer, was Karen Hale, was and is Karen Hale. She is the producer, the media mogul at newclevelandradio.net, and our co-host. We are on the newclevelandradio.net platform. Go there, click on my name somewhere on the screen, and you'll find out how to download our podcast for free. Find it on YouTube for free so you can see what we look like and see some of the many photos that we that accompany our stories. As always, we try to describe them as best we can. For those of you just listening while you're out walking or on your exercise machines, we're talking about you down there in Austin, Texas. Anyways, the point is, we're grateful for you to listen to us. We're grateful when you watch us on YouTube. And as always, like us and follow us and do all those great things. The guy you really want to follow is the other ear of what ear in your voice or voice in your ear, depending on your which side you're listening on, is John DiNallo, our sports guy, our trivia guy, all around good guy. And I will mention before John gets on that John is not wearing a hat today, which he always does.
He's showing off his hat.
He's showing off the shine that we all have. Well, at least the two of us have off of our heads. Hey, John, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing well, Paul. Thanks for the introduction. And thank you, Karen. And yes, unfortunately, audience, or fortunately, audience, going forward with What in the World, I will no longer be donning a hat for the podcast. So,
but John does have
get you better lighting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Flashlight, John. Hold a flashlight up over your head. That'll work. In the meantime, John is wearing a Cleveland Browns shirt today because we are coming to you live, if you're listening to us live or in the future, from Cleveland, Ohio, the Northeast Ohio area, which I mentioned to somebody today is the prime viewing area for the eclipse coming up on April 7th. So
Absolutely.
April 7th?
April 8th.
April 8th. April 8th. That's right. So absolutely prime time. I hope everybody's got their protective glasses. The lovely Donna bought a couple of pairs for us, but there's a lot of places that are distributing them for free, including the public library. I got one in a copy of Cleveland Magazine this week. So don't look at the sun without any protection. And really use glasses. Ideally, don't look at it at all. Let somebody look at the pictures on TV. They're going to be much better. We might,
stand outside to appreciate it.
But go outside. Definitely go outside and sit in the dark. I do that every night. Sometimes by choice, not always.
Leave that as it is. Leave it as it is.
I am in so much trouble. Let's get out of it by taking a look at what we've got on the show today. That Karen missed the rehearsal, so this is news to her. What are we talking about? Oh, I've got some unusual Bigfoot sightings. John loves those Bigfoot sightings.
Yes, I do.
We like to talk about world records. I've got a world record in water spouting. Wait till you see what this is. This is from Japan. I've got hokey news from Virginia. Might not be what you think. Strange odors and strange ways to combat them. This is news this week. An unusual baseball curse from Osaka, Japan. John, this is right up your alley. You'll probably recognize a few of the names, so we may ask you to help fill in some info. Plus, we've got more odd news. We've got trivia. John's got a great sport for us this week, as always. And then at the end, we play everybody's weird news game, Bluff the co-host. So let's get started with our first story. And just because John doesn't have his hat on and he's looking a little down without his protective covering from the rays of the the fluorescent lights of his basement, we'll go with Bigfoot first. So I ask at the end of the shows for our regular listeners, I always ask for feedback. You can visit me on Facebook, send me a message, go to newclevelandradio.net. You can send Karen a message. If you're listening live, there's a way to send messages to us that way. Believe it or not, we actually get messages. And I got a photo this week from two different people, the same photo from two of our loyal, faithful listeners and followers on Facebook. Miriam is one. We never use last names because we don't want them to be harassed. And our buddy Brian down in West Virginia. John knows who Brian is.
Yes, I do.
Brian sent me a photo, and he sent it specifically for John. He said, show this to John, that believer that he is. Now he'll believe. That was the comment on the message, John. So I'm gonna bring up the photo here, and then we'll talk about it for a second. Here's our logo, somewhere around here. There we go. Here's our logo. And here's the photo. So the photo, for those of you who aren't watching us, is a UFO hovering over a lake. And in the lake is the Loch Ness Monster. And riding on the back of the Loch Ness Monster is Bigfoot.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
I've known Brian for years, and he's a bright guy, nice guy, really just a good guy all the way around. But I don't know where he comes off with this, thinking that I'm going to believe that, number one, Sasquatch is on the Loch Ness Monster, and on top of it, there's a picture of a UFO above. I'm not buying it. Sorry, Brian. Sorry.
If you look at the photo, yeah, boy, Brian, send all of your emails to John, not to me. But if you look very closely, I think I know how Brian got this photo. I see somebody being beamed into the UFO, and I think he may have taken this photo himself, and is being beamed up to the UFO as we speak. But so anyways, Brian, thanks as always. And Marion, again, thanks to you on Facebook for sending the same photo to us. Since we're looking at unusual Bigfoot photos, I was going through my files, and I have a photo of Bigfoot that I acquired right at this time of the year last year. And you'll understand why when I show it to you. In fact, somebody probably looked out their back window on a certain Sunday last year and took this photo right here. There is Bigfoot.
Oh my gosh.
Picking up Easter eggs. It looks like an egg hunt from Easter. I don't think he's delivering them. It looks more like Bigfoot is out there in a field picking up eggs that were left out there for the little kids who ran away, terrified of Bigfoot. What do you say, John? Do you remember seeing that?
No, but look at the left side of his face. You can't even see. I mean, it looks like he has fur on the left side of his face.
See, John, this is what happens when you have poor lighting. This is
Karen, I don't think that's the reason. I mean, it really puzzles me now. It really does.
You think he was putting on makeup and maybe was in a hurry and ran out the door with only half his makeup on.
Maybe all that hair grew just overnight or something and covers up half of his face. Oh my gosh. It is a striking contrast, though, for him to hold a basket of either Easter eggs or candy, right? But something's not right with that picture. I can just tell you that.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. There's something that looks like in the bushes in the back of the photo as well. It looks like there might be a Bigfoot hiding or looking in another spot where they might find or maybe they caught the Easter bunny and they're eating it in the corner over there.
My. Oh,
I don't know, but we better get out of here and get onto some more stories here. So,
sounds good.
well, let's start with a world record. So this is a world record from Japan. This is in the sport of water spouting. John, have you ever heard of a sport called water spouting?
No, Paul, I'm going to say that I have not. I have not.
Okay, we got a new one here for you. 35-year-old Ma Hui is his name. I'm sure I mispronounced it. Ma, if you're listening, I'm sorry. He set a world record for the longest time of spraying water from the mouth. He sprayed water out of his mouth continuously for, get this, 5 minutes and almost 52 seconds. 5 minutes and 52 seconds. There he is right there. So now you know why it's called water spouting. He looks a little bit, it looks like he's standing at Home Depot in front of some plant.
He could be in the plant section. Yes.
Yeah.
He could be in the plant section.
Yeah, pretending to be a one of those fountains that you see there.
Right. Right.
That you can see where the name water spouting comes from. He's holding his arm up and he's spouting water out of his mouth. He did this for 5 minutes, almost 6 minutes, to achieve the record, according to the World Guinness people. The water must be spurted or sprayed from the mouth. Dribbling is not permitted. As soon as the water stream breaks or stops, the record attempt ends. Here's another photo of him here. Here's from two different angles here. Two different times in there's no clock there, but he is just spitting up a storm here. And it doesn't look like his cheeks are puffed out enough to be containing enough water for 5 minutes, so you may ask, like Karen always does, how did he do it?
Yeah.
No, he didn't shove a garden hose up his butt while nobody was looking.
Well, that's comforting. That's comforting to know.
Yeah, John, I think I remember somebody in our fraternity doing that once, but we'll talk about that.
I'm sure there was. In fact, maybe more than one of us actually did that. That's right.
Here's how he did it. Here's how he did it, everybody out there. He swallowed, before attempting the record, 1.1 gallons of water. Swallowed.
Wow.
1.1 gallons of water, and then he slowly regurgitated it, which means he trained himself how to do this over many years.
Oh my God.
I know.
A lot of time involved with that activity, I'm sure. Oh boy.
Now, this is not a new sport. This sport began in the 17th century when people had nothing better to do, so they started regurgitating water and wine and all kinds of other things.
Oh man.
John, the first person to do this professionally, and believe it or not, you can get paid for doing this. Flora Marchand performed a trick called the water to wine trick, where he would drink 30 glasses of water on stage. He was like a magician. He would drink 30 glasses of water on stage. Then, instead of spouting water, he would spout something red that he claimed was wine and keep on spouting it. What he did was he swallowed red dye beforehand. He snuck it in there. But people thought that he was turning water into wine. Another one in vaudeville, and I have a photo of this guy, or a drawing. I think I have a photo. Haji Ali is his name. Here's a picture of Haji Ali. Okay, it's black and white. That's how you can tell it's an old photo. So Haji used to get up on stage dressed like a Sam the Sham from Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. We're dating ourselves here, kids.
Yep.
Or a sheik, or Paul, he's a sheik. He's a sheik.
Yep.
The sheik, the wrestler. That's right. So he was known to drink water and then a chaser of kerosene, and then he would spout them both, and he would light the kerosene on fire. So there were flames coming out of his mouth, followed by water to put the fire out.
Oh my gosh.
That's a lot of work. That's another guy that did a lot of work. What do you think about that, Karen? Wow.
I mean, what do you get paid to do that? Wow.
Unbelievable. Oh. And yet there's more. Another performer who did this was Mac Norton, who was billed as, get ready for this, the human aquarium, because not only did he swallow water, he also swallowed goldfish and frogs and regurgitated them.
Oh, no.
Karen, I'm sure, would at this point say, well, I'm relieved no one does that kind of stuff anymore. Au contraire, a magician by the name of David Blaine, who's a very famous magician.
Yeah, he's famous, sure.
He did this on the Tonight Show, and unfortunately we're not allowed to show what he did on the Tonight Show. But this was with Jimmy Fallon. He actually swallowed a fishbowl full of frogs and goldfish and regurgitated them on the Tonight Show. So, you know,
I'm glad I'm asleep, not watching.
I know. Who's the other one? Dagmar Roshan, the great Waldo called himself. He used to swallow and regurgitate jewelry, coins, lemons, and mice. I had a photo of him swallowing a lemon, but it wasn't that interesting. He performed in New York City at the Ripley, Believe It or Not Museum. And now, for all of you who are watching live on YouTube, I will perform the regurgitation trick. So get ready for this. I'm just kidding.
That's good. That's comforting, Paul. That's very comforting.
Yeah.
I was concerned there for a moment.
Yeah. Poor Donna.
Okay. We're gonna move on. Okay, so we have another story about flooding. Here's my segue. There was flooding at the Woburn Safari Park in Bedfordshire, UK, in England, and it created a temporary lake. So the zookeepers they had 11 American bears, black bears, that were getting a little antsy because this lake was there that wasn't there before. So the zookeepers did this. They took and put a giant swan boat. That's one of those paddle boats that is covered with the outline of a swan, a giant swan. Right. And they put it out for the black bears. And believe it or not, the black bears got into the swan boat and started trucking around the lake in it.
Wow.
They actually made it all the way across the pond, and being American bears, they immediately got out and went looking for a McDonald's. So
they were true to form, Paul and Karen. Yes.
There you go, John. So some people, like John, said, "Oh no, this can't be real. These must be people in bear suits." And one person even suggested it's probably Princess Kate and her kids trying to escape from the palace disguised as bears.
Yeah. That's going a little bit too far, guys.
Stories ripped right from the headlines here. So the zookeepers actually got the bears in the boat by putting a container of honey and monkey nuts in the boat, which got a couple of the male bears a little upset because, you know, they were hoping to get the rest of the monkey besides just the nuts. So we're going to go back to vaudeville for a second here, but you know, sometimes I think we go back a little too far here. But anyways, when was the first time bears rode bicycles? You'd not believe this, but the first person to train a bear to ride a bicycle was a Russian back in the early 1900s, and I have a photo. There's a bear riding a bicycle right there. So the bear would have to know how to do this in order to pedal the swan boat. So I Googled bears on bicycles to see what I could find. The first thing I found out is that a person riding a bicycle can go like maybe 25, 30 miles an hour. That is not fast enough to outride a running grizzly bear.
Interesting.
So, yeah, if you're in the park and a grizzly bear is chasing you and you're on a bicycle, you're still SOL. The only thing that could save you is if you get a head start, because the bear can't keep running that long at that speed for so long. But anyways, so the first bear to be trained was trained by a woman. Her name was Catherine Pallenberg, and her husband Emil were bear trainers. And they trained the bear in Russia, and they took it to Germany in 1914. And here's a flyer from, eventually they ended up in the Barnum and Bailey Circus. And this was part of their trained bears. They had bears walking on tightrope. They had bears going up and down stairs on the bicycle. They had bears roller skating, bears balancing on balls. This is this is great entertainment here.
I would say
I-
so.
Yeah.
I'd pay to see that. So they had it's not pictured here, but they taught a bear to ride a bicycle with one of those giant front wheels, the old-fashioned bicycle, 8 feet high in the air. Also, they were the first to teach a bear how to walk on a tightrope. How do you teach bears? How do you train bears to do things like that? How do you train bears to walk on a tightrope, you may ask? You have to have an awful lot of monkey nuts. That's all they would say.
How do you get the bear up on a bicycle?
I don't know, Karen. I was looking for videos. I thought, me on YouTube, there's always training videos on how to do different, how to fix your toilet. But no videos on how to train your bear how to walk on a tightrope.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah, train humans how to walk on a tightrope. I think I've got another. Yeah, there's another one. This was another Barnum and Bailey. Same family. Here's a the bear. Now they've got a bear band playing the music, and a male and a female bear all dressed in a top hat and a dress, and they're roller skating around a rink. I'd pay to see that. I have a feeling that this was a little artistic license was taken here.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked about this a few weeks ago. Another athletic event here, the Course des Cafés, which was the race of the waiters and the waitresses in Paris. I remember that they were bringing this race back in honor of the Paris Olympics, and waiters and waitresses from around Paris were competing for a prize by running while carrying a tray of a glass of water and a plate of food. I think I have a photo here so you can see what that looks like. So they finally had the official race this past weekend, and there's hundreds. Yeah, look at that, John. The hundreds of waiters and waitresses of all ages. It was a pretty senior waiter in the front right there.
Yeah.
They had to be dressed in their uniforms, so they had white shirts, they had dark pants. A couple of them had suit coats and vests, bow ties. They had to carry a regulation pastry, a small but empty coffee cup, and a full glass of water, which sounds. That's what you get at most diners in the United States: a small empty cup of coffee and a full glass of water. And the waitress back.
So it's your token beverage. It's your token beverage, right? Exactly.
Yeah, that's what they call it. At the end of the race, they were judged on how much liquid they had spilled out of the water glass, as well as their time. Winning female time, they ran, 1.2 miles, I think. This woman ran in 14 minutes and 12 seconds. Pauline van Weimersmerch was the ladies' winner. She said, waitressing, in her interview afterwards, she said, waitressing is in my skin, which I'm afraid that means she spilled an awful lot of water and wine and coffee. But she must have done well enough to win. The male was Sammy Lamrose, who won in 13 minutes and 30 seconds. So that's a pretty good time for running for a mile and a half.
Oh, yeah, sure. Wow.
John, you don't do this for just the prestige. There were prizes.
Oh, yeah. Well, there had to be some kind of incentive. Sure.
So they got a medal. They got 2 tickets to the Olympic opening ceremony, which, by the way, I will be talking about that later in the summer as the Olympics come up. But the Olympic ceremony will not be held indoors. For the first time, it's going to be held on the river that runs through Paris, with the
Seine River.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. And they also got a night. Each of them got a night at a Paris hotel, which they spent the whole time. They already checked in. They spent the whole time in the hotel restaurant ordering the waiters and waitresses around. Hey, look at my medal here. I'm the fastest.
Wow.
So, these all waiters and waitresses better speed things up, because if not, they could be replaced by drones. And that takes us to our next story here. That's our segue. I'll put a photo up here while I introduce it. So this story came out this week. Wendy's. Everybody's familiar with Wendy's, the fast food restaurant with the square hamburgers. Wendy's customers in Christiansburg, Virginia, can now get their burgers delivered to their home by a drone. Um, you get your burgers, you get your chili, you get your Frosties. It's in conjunction with DoorDash, and the drones will deliver the orders in 30 minutes or less by landing on the customer's front lawn. So pretty
Wow.
cool. Yeah.
It's
So you know,
it's not a surprise it comes to this when it comes to delivering food, right? In
oh
so many
yeah,
ways, right? Wow.
nobody goes to restaurants anymore. Yeah, everybody wants to with their DoorDash or
Right.
other
Dine
services.
in.
So
Everyone wants to dine in. Sure.
you're absolutely right, John. The other restaurants are going to be looking at this and they want to compete. In fact, White Castle is already working on a similar program. The difference is they won't land; they will drop the bag from the drone, but you have to have a slide in the backyard in order to catch the
Slider.
slider.
Okay. Well, that could, Paul, that kind of makes sense.
I know it makes sense.
You also know
I had to
that
say it. I'm sorry. I just had to say that.
Well, John, your head's getting cold. We need to put your hat back on.
No hat
you know
today.
Wendy's has raised their dinner time prices. You did hear that.
They
At
really.
peak times.
Yes.
Yeah, peak
So I
times.
think it's
But
from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Their food costs more.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
but then I heard another report, Karen, that was refuted by a Wendy's spokesperson. So I don't know if it's
Oh,
true.
really?
Yeah.
Well,
So I don't know
I
if it's true or not.
hope it's not real because it made no sense. Why would
Yeah.
you raise for the exact same food?
Really?
No.
Good point. Especially for fast food. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. It's not like this is a fancy restaurant here, Ode to Wendy or whatever, it's some French restaurant. But believe it or not, so I put this a story out on Facebook as I do, regular listeners know. You can find me on Facebook. Just put my name in search, and a lot of times I'll put some of these stories out there with a joke or two. And a friend of the show, and also a good friend of mine because he's married to my cousin Ken, lives in Virginia, near where this is going on, and he said that Christiansburg, where this is happening, is just outside of Blacksburg, which is the home of the Virginia Tech Hokies, which brings us to our next story.
Okay.
Not Hoagies, but Hokies. So it's not a food story. It's Hokie. John, our sports guy here and our trivia guy, what is a Hokie?
I'm going to fudge on this one because I don't, it may sound lame, but at one time I think I knew what a Hokie was. But if I'm not mistaken, is a Hokie a person?
No, good guess though. In a remote sense, good guess. In 1896, the name of the college. Oh, it was founded in 1872 at the Virginia Agricultural and Mechanical College, and it was a military school. So in 1896, they changed the name to Virginia Agricultural and Mechanical College and Polytech Institute. What a mouthful for college students, let alone poor pocket like me. So they had a team back then. I think they must have had a football or a basketball team, and they used to do spirit yells at the games. So they needed a new spirit yell for the new name of the school.
Okay.
So they put it out to the students, and in 1896, a student by the name of I thought I put his name down, Oscar Stull, 1896. He came up with a new spirit yell. So I'm not going to yell it. I will simply read it. But here's the spirit yell of the Hokies. Here you go. Hokie, Hokie, Hokie high. Tech, Tech, VPI. Sola Rex, Polytech, Virginia. Rah, rah, VPI. Team, team, team. Now, at that point, all of the students in the stands begin using their hands to make kind of like a beak shape, and they made gobbling noises. And that is the answer to the question. A hokie is a turkey.
Oh my
A
God.
turkey. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay.
So that's your mascot, the turkey. Now, what's his name? Oscar. He claims that he did not come up with the idea. He made up the name, and it's not a turkey. But they decided that it was a turkey. Somebody else researched it, and they found some link between Hokies and turkeys. So he got $5 for coming up with that yell. I thought that was pretty interesting.
You know what's the good news? Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so hokie, it also has other meanings. It's a word that people use to express feelings of approval, excitement, and surprise. So it's a word, it's like a cheer, like hooray. So that's one of the meanings of hokie. So the team mascot, which we're looking at right here, is called the Hokie bird, which is a turkey-like creature, and it has a human in it. So, John, you were technically correct that a hokie is.
You know what? The good news is, everyone? The good news is when you refer to the school, it's just Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Everybody refers to it as Virginia Tech. You don't have the full name. It's just Virginia Tech. And I think in Virginia, I got this right, they just refer to it as Tech. So it's that shortened of a reference there. So at any rate.
And they don't call the players on the team the Hokies. They call them the Fighting Gobblers. And that came
all right.
That came from 1909. A football coach in 1909, Branch Bocock, gave his players the name the Gobbler Club. Now, why were they called the Gobblers? And I'll speed this up. So I mentioned that it was a military school. So the freshmen, you abuse the freshmen. So the freshmen were not allowed to look at their plate while they were eating. If they looked at their plate, it was referred to as gobbling your food, and they got beaten or harassed or something.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So the coach got mad, and he said the football players, because they needed to eat more food to get in shape, were allowed to look at their plates. So they became known as gobblers. And he said, oh, yeah, well, they're the football players, and they can beat you up. So we're calling them the Fighting Gobblers. And that's...
Oh, my God. What a story, Paul. What a story.
Oh, now, this Hokie has nothing to do with the hokey pokey, which is what college students do in the dorm in the evening. It's a co-ed dorm. And on that note, we're going to move on.
Let's leave it there, Paul. Leave it there.
I think so.
All right. Speaking of college, Vermont State University, this is another story I put on Facebook. Vermont State University's Leiden Music and Performing Arts Department is offering a course on this gentleman right here, Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
They're studying how to create parodies in the style of Weird Al Yankovic. Students will learn what makes a good parody song and why Weird Al's songs were so popular in the 1980s and 1990s. You could not watch MTV or listen to the radio without hearing a Weird Al song back in that period.
That is very true. Look at his eyeballs. Look at his eyeballs in this photo. Oh my gosh.
He's an odd character. So he heard about this. He's so excited. He wants to work with them on some other classes. He's already working with the math department on a class called Weird Algebra.
Where's the horn at, Paul? Very good.
So this is nobody in history made more money playing the accordion to make music than Weird Al Yankovic. Not even his namesake, Frankie Yankovic. But some people have made more money, and those are the people that used accordions to chase rats and mice out of buildings. Exterminator. Other than that, Weird Al, he's the accordion player in history. So they're going to study his most famous songs, like "Eat It," "Like a Sturgeon," and everybody's favorite, "My Bologna." Was his first song. What was that based on? You remember? That's an easy one there for you.
My Sharona, right? The last song, My Sharona.
By
The
Maybe Karen knows this one. You know this one? I can hear some of my listeners screaming.
I
By
can
the
hear the
neck.
song in my head, but I don't know who.
Yeah, it was By the Neck. The lead singer's
yeah,
girlfriend's
right.
name was Sharona. Actually, she wasn't his girlfriend yet. He was wooing her, as the kids say. And he wrote this song, My Sharona. And she happened to, was trying to decide if she was going to date him or not, and goes to their rehearsal. And he plays it for her, and the rest is history. But although they never got married, they stayed friends for the rest of their life. So the guy who wrote it, I don't know if I have his name here. I don't have his name, but in an interview about the song My Sharona, not Weird Al, this guy said, so Weird Al does some information for the class. So he said after he heard My Sharona, he was working at a radio station in California, and he came up with the idea for My Bologna. So he goes into the men's room, and he sits in a stall, and he records My Bologna. Now, if you walk into a men's room and there's someone in the stall singing about his bologna, I don't know about you.
I don't know. I'm not going there. I'm sorry. I'm not going there. No. Leave it alone. Leave it alone.
And now you know why his name is Weird Al.
Yeah, there it is. Aptly named. He is aptly named. Yes.
Okay, so during rehearsal, when Karen wasn't there, John and I were talking about some of the other stories, and I mentioned to him that one of the stories has to do with fragrances. So this is from a new study on body odors, and it found that younger children, they took the smells of all these of adults and people of various ages. Younger children smelled like flowers, while teenagers smelled like goats. Now, I don't know about you. See, there's somebody smelling themselves. I don't know about you. If younger kids smell like flower, if they think they smell like flowers, they're obviously potty trained. Karen, the only mother on our staff, would agree with that. Would you say?
Absolutely.
Because the only flowers that I know of that smell like dirty diapers are dead flowers.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Now the teenagers give off compounds that smell like sweat, urine, cheese, musty odors, and goats, according to this study, which explains why, this is during puberty. This explains why the only girls who dated me in high school were in the 4-H club. Does anybody know what the 4-H club is anymore? I know Karen and John laughed at that.
They still have it.
Do they still have it?
Yeah, they still do. Yeah.
It's the kids who wanted to get into farming. So, well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Now, I don't know what goats on a farm smell like, but after living in a dorm for a few years, I know what goats who drink beer smell like. They smell like
real world experience you have there, Paul. Real world experience.
So as John and I were reminiscing about going through that time in our lives, puberty is brutal on teenage boys. It really is brutal. So we had to douse ourselves in colognes and aftershave and deodorants in order to kill that goat-like smell. And one of the most popular colognes of our time frame was this one, High Karate. Now, the slogan for High Karate, for those of you too young to know to have experienced High Karate, the slogan was High Karate, be careful how you use it. Do you remember that, John?
I do very well, and I can still visualize my jar or whatever it was, the container of High Karate in my parents' bathroom. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I have one here. I'm going to come back to that. So this is an ad. We're showing an ad here, a cartoon ad from like a magazine for High Karate. And we could not show these. You cannot use these ads today. It's a drawing of a woman jumping on a man because he's wearing High Karate aftershave. Nope. There's no way we could do that. So the fragrance, this was originally this shows how things go around and come around again. It was developed in 1967 by Pfizer. Now, we all know who Pfizer is to these days because of the coronavirus vaccine. Way back then, they had a division that made colognes, and one particular cologne was High Karate, after-shaving cologne for men. For friends of our age who are listening to the show, High Karate was considered to be a mid-range cologne, John. So we would get it as a gift. It was good enough to give as a gift, but we couldn't afford it. Let's put it that way. So it was a mid-range.
Right. Sure.
The cheap ones, and you'll know this is what I know what I wore: Old Spice, Aqua Velva, and Menon's Skin Bracer, which doubled as aftershave. So you got two for the price of one there.
I remember the Aqua Velva very well.
Now that you say it, I can see the bottle, I can smell it. Pete Rose, yeah. I think,
sure.
On the expensive side, Jade East and English Leather. Boy, if you want,
I remember that.
Good.
I remember I got English Leather as a gift one time. I got English Leather as a gift. I don't remember who it was from, but I did get it as a gift, I remember.
Exactly. So they had flavors. Other flavors of High Karate were Oriental Lime and Oriental Spice. Again, two names we couldn't use today. This ad shows a woman, again, this is a photo, woman jumping on a guy. Use too much and you can find yourself in a tight squeeze as she squeezes him. Yep. So be careful how you use it.
Be careful what you wish for.
There you go. All right. So I've got a sports story to lead us into John's sports segment here. And it's the so we can't talk about sports without talking about superstitions and curses, especially in professional and college sports. So this one comes from Japan. It's called the Curse of the Colonel. The Colonel being Colonel Sanders from Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I'm going to tell the story and then I'll show you where the curse came from. So the Hanshin Tigers are the professional team in Osaka, Japan. They're the Cleveland Guardians and the Cleveland Indians of Japan, in that they're one of the oldest teams. They're the second oldest team in the professional league, and they never won the World Series. They went for decades and decades and decades without ever winning the World Series. And their fans were as passionate as Cleveland fans. They stuck to them every year. They filled the stadium. They drank their sake and they cheered. And the Osaka Tigers never won until 1985. So 50 years after they were founded, they finally won the World Series in 1985. So the fans were so excited they jumped into the canal in the city, the Dotonbori. Yeah, you can see that we would do that too. We jump into the Cuyahoga River, we jump into Lake Erie. If the Guardians won again, yeah, Karen, you'd be down there too. We'd all be down there.
I certainly would be. Yeah.
Right. So what they were doing, they didn't want to take the players in the river with them. So they were taking statues and dolls of the players.
Okay.
The star player was a guy by the name of Randy Bass. Now, Randy Bass was an average player in the major leagues in the United States. When he finally got tired of getting cut by teams, he went to Japan. And because he was bigger and more experienced than the players there, Randy Bass became the star of the Tigers. He was the MVP. He was the MVP of the World Series. So he is beloved. He ended up being elected into the Hall of Fame there, the Japanese Baseball Hall of Fame. He is absolutely beloved. So they wanted to take him into the river, but they didn't have a statue. So they found a statue of Colonel Sanders because he was closest. He was the closest statue that looked like Randy Bass. Obviously,
my gosh.
Wow. Was a portly first baseman for the Tigers. Let's put it that way. They beat the team that they beat was managed by Sadahiro Oh. Now, John, you'll remember him. I probably mispronounced his name, but he was the Babe Ruth of Japan.
Japan, right. He has the record for most home runs in Japanese baseball history. Right.
Oh yeah. He was approaching Babe Ruth's record for career in baseball. So Randy Bass was going after the record. The record was 55 home runs in a season at the time, and Randy Bass had 54 going into the last game against Sotoru O's team, and he's the manager. So what does he do? He made the pitcher of the team, the Yomiuri Giants. He had the pitcher intentionally walk Bass every time he came to bat, so he couldn't get the record. He preserved
Right.
his record. Kind of crappy thing to do.
That
but,
is that's in bad form. I'll go on a limb and say that's bad form. Yeah.
So the fans took this Colonel Sanders Randy Bass statue into the canal with them, and they were going to bring him back out, except they didn't hold on tight enough, and they lost him, and they couldn't find him. So Randy Bass floats away and sinks, and no one can find the statue. Now, is that a big deal? They didn't think so, except the following year, they had a crappy team. The following year, they had another terrible team. The following year, they had another This was the curse of the Colonel Sanders.
Okay.
Years after that, they couldn't win. And they said it's because we took Colonel Sanders and we threw him into the river, and now we can't find him. So in 2003, the team had a good team, and they made it to the World Series. So all the KFCs in Osaka took their statues and hid them because they were afraid that if they won, they'd run out and steal the statues and throw them in the river again. They didn't win. The next time they won was in 2023, which is why we're talking about this story today. The Tigers finally won the World Series in 2023. So they went dredging the canal, and they finally found the canal, and they brought up Colonel Sanders, and they took him to the KFC headquarters in Japan, not in Kentucky, but in Japan, and they put him on display. Now we're looking at a photo of it. The statue, the hands are missing. It's rusted out. It looks awful. So they won 4-3, by the way. So John, I know you were wondering so KFC said, "I'm sorry. I know you guys are all upset about this, and you're excited because the curse has been broken, but we can't keep this stinky, dilapidated statue here." So the president of KFC Japan takes the statue, and he has lunch with it. She shares sake and KFC chicken with this dilapidated statue of the Colonel, and then they disemboweled it, or whatever it is they do to take it apart, and they're going to give them a new statue to honor.
No, they should have cleaned them up.
I know they should have cleaned them up. So Randy Bass. Speaking of Randy Bass, and then we'll get on to John. If that name rings a bell, Randy Bass, after he retired and made it to the Japanese Baseball Hall of Fame, came back to the United States and went back to his home state of Oklahoma and ran for political office and won. So since 2018, Randy Bass has been a state senator in Oklahoma. I guess he was a pretty good politician. He got reelected 3 times, and then he was term limited out in 2018. So I thought, it just was such a weird story. I apologize for it being as long as it was, but
okay, but it's very appropriate for our show.
yeah, there you go. So the curse of the Colonel has finally been broken, and there's no curses listening to What in the World, but I believe that, and the same is true for What in the World of Sports with John DiNallo. Every week I ask my old buddy John, and your regular listeners know John and I go back to college. We went to college together. We are fraternity brothers. We've known each other for years. John knows more about sports than anybody I know. He knows more about trivia than anybody I know. In fact, John and I are going to be competing in a trivia contest coming up in a couple of weeks. So we'll be talking about that, I'm sure, even if we don't do very well. But anyway,
think positive, Paul. Think positive.
So I challenge John every week. I said, John, come up with a sport a sport like water spouting, one that our listeners have never heard of, and that maybe we could participate in. And every week, John manages to come up with a really good sport, and he's got a great one this week. So let me get your photos together, John, and why don't you introduce the sport for us?
Oh, sounds good, Paul. Thanks for the intro. So, interestingly enough, though, our sport this week, in the truest sense of the word, is not a sport. However, it looks kind of like baseball, and close is good enough for the sports segment of our show.
Okay.
The name of the sport is banana ball, and its national team is the Savannah Bananas, aptly named as its uniforms are bright yellow jerseys and bright yellow baseball pants. The banana ball played by the Savannah Bananas resembles baseball like the game played by the Harlem Globetrotters resembles basketball. Let me explain. The team was founded in 2016 and plays its home games at Grayson Stadium in Savannah, Georgia. Until 2022, the Bananas competed as a collegiate summer baseball team in the Coastal Plain League, or the CPL, West Division, and they won 3 Pettit Cup championships.
Wow. So they're pretty good.
Yes. However, when their banana ball shtick caught on, they switched entirely to exhibition games against their partner touring team, the Party Animals. So they would play all their games against the team called the Party Animals. They also play challenger teams like the Globetrotters do for charity events. Earlier this month, believe it or not, a sellout crowd of over 41,000 fans jammed Minute Maid Park, the home of the Houston Astros, to see the major league debut of the Savannah Bananas.
Wow. I've been there. That's big.
Now, guest pitchers, for the Bananas included 7-time Cy Young Award winner Roger Clemens and 3-time All-Star pitcher Roy Oswalt. They had to play by banana ball rules, and again, they were able to adapt. Some of the rules in banana ball are the following. Games are won by points instead of runs. The team that scores the most runs in an inning gets 1 point. Batters, it gets better. Batters cannot step out of the batter's box at all. Doing so results in an automatic strike. Batters cannot bunt. Doing so results in an automatic ejection.
Wow.
Batters can attempt to steal first base at any point during their at-bat.
Okay.
I love this one. Foul balls caught by fans in the stands are counted as outs. But the fan has to catch the ball. Not that many times when you see a foul ball go into the crowd, it hits someone's hands and they don't catch it. But if it's caught, it becomes an out. Also, each team is allowed to challenge certain other calls by the umpires. Fans are also allowed to challenge 1 call per game, similar to how things are challenges like you'll find in pro football games. Now, a rule major league managers might like, thinking about this, is the golden batter rule. Once a game, a team can send any hitter to bat in any spot in the batting order. This allows a team to have their best hitter hit when the game is on the line.
Oh, good idea.
Obviously, the goal of banana ball is fun for all. Fans dance and sing, throughout the game, and rules can change during the game as well.
Yeah.
Which also, the game does have a 2-hour time limit. So if we get to 2 hours, the game is over, regardless of the score. So my thinking is, for the record, The Bananas defeated the Party Animals in Houston by the score of 5-4. Then the fans, just like every other, or as ever, just like after every Bananas game, they split. The Savannah Bananas, everyone. How about that?
Well, let me add, on August the 10th, they will be at Progressive Field.
Yes, that is
So
right.
those of us in
That is right.
Cleveland.
August 10th. That is correct. That is correct.
So I think we should go.
Sounds like a fun night out. To me, sounds like a fun night out, if you ask me. Yeah.
I think it would be fun.
Yeah, let's investigate that. That would be fun. We could we wouldn't do a remote, but we could certainly talk about it afterwards. Yeah, okay, sounds good. The Savannah Bananas in Cleveland. What a great story. I didn't know that there was like a Harlem Globetrotter equivalent in baseball, and John found it for us there. So thank you, John. Karen also had
Paul and Karen, an audience.
Yeah. So everybody participates. Now, this looks like a sport, that I think maybe in our younger days we could have played. But I went looking through my files and my scrapbooks of a time when John and I might have played banana baseball, and I could not find John or myself playing banana baseball. However, we did participate in another banana-related sport. Do you remember that, John?
Paul, I'm going to say that I don't. I have to be honest on this one. I really don't.
Well, if you remember last week, we talked about gravy wrestling.
Yes.
John and I actually participated in a sport called banana wrestling while we were in college. We were challenged by another fraternity to wrestle in bananas. They were very vague about what we were actually going to do. So John and I, here's a picture of John and I posturing before the banana wrestling. We're gonna stick it to those guys, we're a tag team, the Banana Boys tag team.
We're trash talking at this point, right? Okay, now I kind of remember this now. I kind of remember it vaguely. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. A picture of two guys that look vaguely like John and I, dressed like bananas. Now, as always, John's a smarter one, so he made me go first. And so I got into the ring, and there's a fraternity. I think this must have been a couple of guys from Beta Tau here. And they were not playing by the rules. They both jumped into the ring, and they were about to jump all over me. But fortunately, John came in and threw them out of the ring. And here's John celebrating at the end. John was in much better shape those days.
Oh, yeah, obviously I was. Quite a few years ago. Wow.
He really fills out those tights, if you know what I mean. So there he is, John celebrating the end of our banana wrestling bout. And on that note, I am going to wrap up What in the World of Sports and bring us to Bluff, the co-host, everybody's favorite weird news game. Thanks again, John, for that story.
Very good.
You're welcome. You're welcome, guys.
So Bluff, the co-host, everybody's favorite weird news game. Real easy to play. I have 3 stories, similar to the ones we've been talking about, except those were all true. These may be true, they may be a bluff, and it's up to Karen, John, and those of you playing at home to decide real or bluff. Wagering is allowed, so place your bets. John and Karen, hands on the buzzer. Let's get right to story number 1. The Indy 500 auto race will be held on Sunday, May 26th, and for the first time in history, it will follow the Indy 500 nose race. On the Sunday before, 33 people will get down on their hands and knees on the same racetrack where they will push a matchbox replica car of an Indy car in this year's race around the track using nothing but their noses. Touching the car with any other body part will result in a disqualification, but the pushers can bump into each other with their bodies and cut each other off just like the Indy racers do. The winner will be the first person to push their car completely around the track, where they will get an official checkered flag, a tiny bottle of milk to drink, and a cash prize of $250. Ladies and gentlemen, start your noses. Okay, so the race that will be held before the Indy 500, the Indy 500 nose car race, where they push Indy matchbox cars around the track with their noses one time. Real or bluff? Karen, we'll start with you.
So you say this is the day before the race.
Sunday before the race.
Oh, the Sunday before the race. Well, yeah, that would be the day before because yeah. You know what? I don't think they can do that because they would be qualifying the cars the day before.
No, the Sunday before the race.
Oh,
the Sunday.
The whole week before.
Week before. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was not clear. A week.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's true then.
Oh, okay. Karen said, all right. John, how about you?
Well, I'm a little skeptical on this one. I'm going to say that it's not real. Just the concept of this is really, really odd. I mean, that you're going to try to push these Matchbox cars, of all places, on the Indy 500 racetrack. It's got to be a bluff.
Oh, okay. So John says it's a bluff. It'd be a desecration to the old brickyard to get down on your hands.
I think it's irreverent in a way. Yes.
That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, John. So John says it's a bluff. Karen says it's real. Let's check with the judges, and the judges say, "Congratulations, John. You're right. It's a bluff." Although I would pay to see that, and I don't think
that would be pretty odd. That's for sure. Yeah,
it would be very odd. Yeah.
Keeping with the theme of our show. Okay, so that means John is ahead 1-0. But Karen has been known to come back. So let's get right into story number 2, hands on the buzzers. A police department in California, which posts photos of mugshots and police lineups on its website, is being sued by the Lego Group because the cops have been protecting the identities of criminal suspects by covering their faces with Lego heads. The department thought it would be a good way to get more people to visit their website, which they did, but the Lego Group doesn't like their iconic heads being associated with crimes nor suspected criminals. The Lego photos have been taken down for now, while the department looks into using smiley faces, animal heads, or images of carved pumpkins instead. Okay, so the police department in California gets in trouble for covering the faces of mugshots and lineups with Lego heads to protect the identity of the criminal. And Lego gets mad. Real or bluff? John, will go to you.
Well, I think this is real. And I could see how the Lego people, again, it's an iconic brand. Having that association with criminals, that just doesn't work, I don't think. I think I think they're going to have to come up with a different type of disguise or different type of way to conceal the identity of the criminals. Yeah.
God says it's a real story.
That is correct.
I was just thinking, Karen, that if we had a bigger budget, we could have at this point got some Lego heads and put them over all of us. But but anyway, we don't have that kind of budget on What in the World. So let's go to Karen. Karen, what do you think? Real or bluff on Lego head story?
I thought they just erase their faces, like blanked out their faces. I didn't think they put faces on them, but maybe they do use Lego faces. So I'm going to say it's a true story.
Oh, okay. So Karen and John both agree on this one that the Lego heads and the Lego people being upset is a true story. Let's check with the judges. The judges say, congratulations, you're both right. That is a true story from California. How about that? All right. So that means the score is 2-1.
Why don't they just blur them out?
They wanted to get people.
That's too logical. That's why.
Yeah.
Wanted people to look at other stuff at the website. So anyway, I know. I don't judge. I don't judge.
Well, that's why you're the host. That's it. That makes sense.
Boy, I also give the score. Scores 2-1. John's in the lead, but points are doubling round number 3. That means Karen can pull it out as she has many times. John, although he's a crafty one, and this would be 3 in a row for him. He's done it before. Let's see if he does it again. Story number 3. When you're instructed to come on down and become a contestant on The Price is Right, you may notice a person standing behind the curtain and watching you very carefully. That person, according to a new expose on the show, is the P person. And their job is to run out when a contestant accidentally wet their pants. It's happened a few times, so the P person has a blow dryer for when it's just a little and a spare pair of sweatpants for when it's a tsunami. You don't have to guess the price of the pants, but you do have to wear them because the show must go on. This has never happened to host Bob Barker or Drew Carey, but neither one of them ever won a fabulous dining room set from Broyhill. Okay. So the show, The Price is Right, has a person behind the curtain called the P person in case people wet themselves in excitement. Real or bluff? Karen, what do you say?
Oh, I sure hope this is a bluff because it's so embarrassing to begin with. So I'm just going to say bluff, and I don't want to think about it anymore.
Okay. All right. Karen says it's a bluff. John, how about you?
Well, I'm going to go the other way on this one because you can never be too sure. And as you said, Paul, the show must go on. And
Ooh.
when you think about the enormity, if you will, of being called down to be able to win those prizes, I could see a person becoming overly excited. So I think it's true.
Okay. All right. John thinks it's true. Karen,
And you should wear a pair of Depends when you go to the show.
Well, you could do that too, I guess.
I'm leaving that alone. So Karen says it's a bluff. John says it's real. The judges say, congratulations, John, 3 in a row. And I think this has been probably about 2 or 3 weeks in a row. John has won.
Wow. I think the studying, with the Nets been paying off. So, it's working out well for us. So, a very good contest though, Karen.
Yes, it was.
Very good contest. Very good. Very good.
I'll tell you what, Annette, if you're listening, don't slack off there because all it takes is 1 week of not coaching John, and he'll be back on the bottom again. So,
yeah,
all right.
He's lucky he's got a wife that does that. So,
right, that's right.
Very lucky. Right. Absolutely. Sure.
Congratulations to John and Karen for being a good sport, and any of you out there who got all 3 right, congratulations to you as well. That means we've reached the end of this week's edition of What in the World. I want to thank Karen Hale, our producer, our co-host, our media mogul at newclevelandradio.net. Karen, thank you for all that you do for our show and for all the podcasts. Go to newclevelandradio.net. Check out how to download us for free, how to find us on YouTube. And then once you've watched our show, please check out some of all the other great podcasts. And if you need a coach, our show is sponsored by Yes I Can Coaching with Karen. You know which Karen we're talking about. She's a great coach. Check out all the information that is on newclevelandradio.net about her coaching program. We also want to say hello to Karen's favorite team, the Panther City lacrosse team. They're still playing. They're still hanging in there. So let's hope. Oh, they won this week. All right, great.
Last Friday night in overtime, they won, and their goalie made a Hail Mary throw and made a goal.
Wow, that's highly unusual.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
wow, that's great. All right, so thank you, Karen, for that information. And as always, thanks to my old buddy, our resident sports guy, John DiNallo, color commentator, trivia guy, and all around good guy. So, John, thanks again. We'll be looking forward to your sport next week.
Sounds good, Paul and Karen and audience, and we'll have a better show next week. As good as this show was, make sure that you tune in next week.
There you go, and somewhere between this week and our show next week is on the 3rd. It's on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yes.
Same time, different day. In between, the reason why we're doing that for at least some of us, we'll be celebrating Easter, and we will be in chocolate comas for a couple of days.
You can count on that.
It's our warning to all of you out there. Don't do what we do, please. Eat responsibly over Easter. And on that note, there you go. In fact, I haven't even thanked all of our listeners. Thanks to all of you out there Without you, we wouldn't be doing the show. We hope you have as much fun listening as we do putting the show on. And on that note, oh, and thank you to Brian and everybody else and Miriam for sending stuff in and sending emails and all that other stuff in. Now, Karen's giving us the wrap up. We are
Let's
wrapping up.
go.